And we begin with the devastation in Nepal, where rescuers are desperately searching for survivors after extreme flooding hit the Nepal-Tibet border. This, of course, is a very fast-moving situation, so the numbers are changing by the hour. But let's just show you the moment that the flash floods hit Nepal, described by those on the ground as something from the movies. A glacial collapse is now being blamed, not an earthquake, as was originally thought. And these early images that we're getting of the aftermath show the scale of the destruction there. In the affected areas, there are houses, vehicles and trees all completely submerged or buried in mudslides. Let's just show you some of the pictures coming into us from Tibet, where hundreds are also missing. Once again, this body of water has brought enormous devastation on both sides of the border. So here's how things are looking right now. At least 162 people have died in Nepal, but that death toll is expected to rise. A huge search and rescue operation is underway for at least 826 people missing in Nepal, including 600 foreigners. 33 of those are Britons. The others are from India, the United States, Australia and Canada. Chinese state media are reporting that 555 people are missing in Tibet, and amongst those were 260 foreign nationals. The death toll there is currently 3. Well, our international correspondent John Sparks begins our coverage, and a warning that some viewers may find his report distressing.
It came with little warning. A great wave of water, a muddy deluge, forcing its way down a mountain valley. And many in this Nepalese town were caught unaware. My God, a house is collapsing, says one. These waters, unleashed by an avalanche of ice and rock, and the power of this flash flood is undeniable. The town's bridge ripped from its foundations, then consumed. Here, someone films from the back of a school bus, and we hear the sounds of curiosity and wonder give way to terror. On the street, bystanders begin to run, while the bus driver tries to accelerate from the scene. These images were captured from the border with neighbouring Tibet. We see people fleeing from a Chinese border post as a wall of water follows from behind. If a warning was provided, it was clearly inadequate. Moments later, the flood sweeps away all in its path, the equivalent, this, of a massive explosion.
The river has, completely left a trail of destruction like never seen before, as you can see, like never heard before. It has been a complete disaster. I've never seen in my life, something like this, a flood like this proportion. It starts in the Himalayas, and it's so great that it just washes everything away in the wake.
These river valleys form part of a key economic corridor linking Nepal with China, but they're vulnerable to floods and landslides and increasingly unpredictable as global temperatures rise. This disaster took place just before 9 a.m. in the district of Rasuwa, north of the capital, Kathmandu. It's clear that dozens of homes have been swept away, along with roads and power stations and other infrastructure. In their place, we see great swathes of mud carried down from higher elevations in the mountains. It is a reality demonstrated in satellite photos taken before and after the flood. In Nepal, the authorities have begun a major search and rescue operation, but rescue teams must contend with the conditions, and helicopters and airplanes have few places to land. Charity workers say vast areas are now inaccessible.
We have to start thinking about this right away. These people have lost their homes, they've lost everything they own. So the first, of course, they need just hygiene kits, they just need blankets, they just need the basics. But immediately after that, we need to start thinking about more permanent places for them to live.
Hundreds of people have been reported missing, with many believed to be foreign nationals, Indians on pilgrimage, and Britons on holiday among their number. Nepalese officials are saying they fear major casualties in the aftermath of a great wall of water and mud. John Sparks, Sky News.
Well, let's get the latest now on the situation in Tibet. Our Asia correspondent Helen Ann Smith joins us now from Beijing. We can see from the pictures, Helen Ann, how awful the situation is in Nepal. What can you tell us about how it's affected Tibet as well?
Well, I think, Hannah, what we know at the moment is it's similarly catastrophic, similarly devastating, terrifying, and just simply awful. The thing about Tibet in the coming hours and the coming days is that it's going to be far harder for us to figure out what is going on there, because whereas the world's media is probably on its way to the Nepal side, this part of Tibet is incredibly remote. It is incredibly tightly controlled. We as journalists are not allowed to go there. Even as tourists, you need very special permits to access that to Tibet at all, let alone that particular part of Tibet, which you need additional permits for. That's not just for foreign tourists, even Chinese tourists going there need special permits. So it is going to be really hard for us to just figure out exactly what is going on there. We're going to be reliant on Chinese authorities and the Chinese state media. But look, what they're saying at the moment is, of course, pretty devastating. Looking at some 558 missing, 260 of those foreign nationals. Of course, those numbers will be changing regularly, I'd imagine. Worth saying that the foreign nationals in the Tibet side are probably more likely to be Nepali workers, perhaps, less likely to be tourists for the reasons that I explained. But that main port area that the flash flood swept through, it's just worth saying a few things about that. Jirong Port, it's called, and it is Tibet's largest land port. It's an incredibly important economic source for Tibet. Locals have told Chinese state media that it's likely that hundreds of people might have been waiting there for their clearances to cross the border between the two countries at the time it's hit. And actually, just a demonstration of how unstable the land is there. That port was actually hit by a mudslide in July 2025, so only just over a year ago. It left 17 people missing at the time, swept away a bridge, and it actually only reopened properly in January this year. So just a sense of how prone this area is to disasters. And that, again, is something the Chinese authorities have really been stressing in terms of the search and rescue efforts. When I say remote, I mean it really is incredibly remote. It is about 6 times further to that disaster zone on the Tibet side from Tibet's main city of Lhasa, 6 times further than it is from the disaster zone on the Nepal side to the capital of Kathmandu. So just a sense of the distances that they're looking at. Hugely mountainous, hugely remote, very few roads. And the Chinese authorities are saying lots of those roads, particularly closer to the disaster zone itself, have been washed away. State media reporting this big fleet of vehicles sort of queuing to make their way down there. And the authorities saying that rain is forecast and that rescue efforts really dangerous just because of the instability of that land, the steepness of the mountains, the narrowness of the valleys. So I think just incredibly difficult conditions lie ahead. And again, as I say, for us as foreign journalists to access the Tibet side is next to impossible without government permission to do so, and that's probably pretty unlikely to come. So I think we should be careful not to forget about what's happening on the Tibet side, albeit it will be harder to access.
Indeed. Helen Ann, thanks very much indeed. So huge challenges there as far as the rescue effort is concerned in Tibet. Let's find out a little bit more about the rescue and aid effort in Nepal as well. We're joined now by Anish Raj Shrestha from Action Aid Nepal. He's in Kathmandu for us this morning. Very good morning to you. Thanks so much for talking to us. First of all, give us a sense of the scale of this disaster. Have you seen anything like this before there?
Hi. Well, actually, to be very honest, we all Nepalese people are in really shock and awe because of the scale of the enormity of this disaster has bestowed upon us. I mean, like, we have never seen such disasters. Yes, we have been quite a few. It's not been a decade. It's just been a decade when we faced earthquake, and also like there were some small scale of floods that happened kept happening. But amount of this scale, I think we all Nepalese are still in shock and trying to figure out what just happened, because it happened in such a short period of time. That's why I think what we have recently observed is that around 40,000 people were affected and around 8,000 households were being impacted. So although the search and rescue are going on, we expected that the number of death casualties of people are going to be really high.
So the scale of the challenge, enormous. I mean, to what extent are there rescue teams on the ground already?
I think the Nepal government has blocked the roads so that the other travelers could not go through that area. But there are a lot of paramilitary force, and the Nepal police and Nepal army has been deployed for the search and rescue. So primarily there are these security forces are on the ground, and it has been they have been very quick to respond to situations, which is a good part, and so many lives has been saved accordingly. But yes, there are quite a number of forces, and also 12 in this morning, 12 helicopters or airlift services has been deployed.
And to what extent is it a challenge to get to the areas affected? I mean, we're looking at pictures at the moment of this huge wall of mud that was coming down through the valley. How hard is it to actually get to the people who need it the most?
I think it is going to be one of the toughest challenges because, as you can see, there are numerous bridges were been swept away just like that without any. There are no any for certain period of certain length of roads. There are no bridges. I think from our information, around 19 bridges were collapsed. So the roads are collapsed. So it is really going to be a very tough time for any responders, be that to government officials or to any humanitarian organizations to provide services. But for now, we are primarily relying on any coordinations that requires airlift services. So in that sense, it is going to be a very tough.
And whole villages have been wiped out, haven't they, by this? I mean, people have lost everything. What is going to be needed most? What's going to be the priority?
I think the priority is to respond and try to save as much as lives as we could. Also, there are a lot of things that we are trying to prepare, temporary shelters, food items, non-food items, and basic humanitarian dignities kits that we are trying to prepare so that they could have an immediate relief, some sort of that.
Do you expect teams from outside Nepal to come to help?
I think in this kind of situations, friends from outside Nepal has been really generous. And I think, yes, we have been coordinated by with our teams as well. So I think, yes, we expected them. And also we have just received information that the government of India and China are also providing aid rescues. So, yeah.
You said that you'd never seen anything like this before in Nepal, and hence the shock must be huge for this nation. But has there been experience of mudslides? We heard from our correspondent saying in Tibet there was one just last year. Has there been experience like this, but on a smaller scale, that you can build on in your work?
Yeah, I think Nepal is also like mountainous and terrainous regions. There are a lot of, the glacial lakes that are in risk and vulnerable zones, we expected. And yes, in smaller scales, like last year in Tibet, there are some sort of, also in October 2024, we had a massive floods that swept away Kathmandu and various places. But to see anything of this scale is beyond our expectations. So, but like we said, we're definitely doing our work based on this. And try to assess the situations. And also this is kind of like great insight for us that what could come, in future and so how could we prepare ourselves as well. So I think this is definitely point where we have to rethink about the disasters, not only the disasters in terms of where we have our control, but also be serious with the transnational disasters, something like this.
Well, Anish Raj Shrestha from Action Aid Nepal, we so appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, especially when you must be incredibly busy. And thank you so much for sharing with us what's happening there. Thank you. Let's just take a look at the scene live this is Nuwakot in Nepal, where we've been showing you pictures of the mud and water which have inundated the town there. It's a historic district in central Nepal, located about 60 kilometres west of Kathmandu. So let's bring you up to date with a little bit more on this. Phoebe Southworth and our political correspondent Alex Rogers are both here with me. Hi there, both of you. Phoebe, get us up to date with what we know about the numbers missing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we saw those horrendous images there, didn't we, of the mud sort of sliding, destroying everything in its path, and that's obviously proving very difficult in terms of rescuing people. And of course, there was those satellite images as well, showing how much of that lush green landscape has now completely been engulfed by mud. In terms of the numbers, we know that more than 1,000 people are now missing. Of those, 341 are foreign nationals, and then of that group of foreign nationals, 33 are UK citizens. We don't yet know much more about the identities of those people, but what we do know is that a mountain trekking company said that 12 of its British customers are missing, and that includes a 13-year-old girl as well. The Foreign Office has said they are providing assistance to anyone that needs it, and I can read you a number just now of where people should ring if they need help. It's 0207 008 5000. So we await updates on who exactly these British victims in this case are. But at the moment, we are watching and waiting to see if there's any further information.
Yeah, indeed. And I know you'll keep us up to date if we hear anything. But Alex, have we heard from the government at all?
Yeah, we've had some initial reaction from Andy Burnham, really expressing his sympathy with what's been happening. And he says, "These scenes emerging from along the Nepal-China border are devastating. My thoughts are with all those affected, including the families and loved ones of British nationals missing in this tragedy. We will do everything we can to support British nationals impacted in the region and are in touch with the relevant authorities to offer support." The Foreign Office has said something similar. They're saying they're deeply saddened by the loss of life and devastation. And they also say that British nationals should follow local authority advice and exercise caution while travelling, and point to the number to call that Phoebe just read out. In terms of financial support, we haven't had any update on that. We don't know the money that we're going to provide to get our nationals out, but we do know that the US has announced that they're sending $500,000. So let's see what kind of figure we come up with.
Yeah, and I'll be talking to Pat McFadden, the Work and Pension Secretary, shortly, and we'll certainly ask him that question and see if we get more details there. But thanks both very much indeed.